Natal, the Pietermaritzburg City Hall, the Post Office, and the tranquil setting of the historic pavilion in Alexandra Park, legacies of days gone by in the last outpost of the British Empire. By contrast, some sophisticated modern machinery was gathering for the start of the 1999 Stanek Rally Championship. The championship traditionally opens with the Stanek Tour Natal, with the new season always bringing with it high hopes and expectations for those with championship aspirations.
Well, it's quite an important season for us to do well. You know, we're competing against a new car that Falklands brought in, so it's quite interesting to see how the season's going to go. But we'd like to give it a good go at it.
Reigning South African Drivers' Champion Serge Damso in the Castrol Toyota Conquest and new navigator Guy Hodgson were first off the start ramp. Hodgson replaces the now retired Vito Bonafide, with the major challenge for the Toyota pair coming from 1997 champions Jan Habach and Doug Judd in the factory VW Golf. A change of personnel too in the Sasol Motorcraft Ford Escort, with experienced Springbok Richard Leek now sitting alongside Paolo Piazzamuso. After a spectator stage in Alexandra Park, crews were headed for special stages in the New Hanover and Howick areas. Then it was back to Sleepy Hollow, with day one scheduled to end at Umhlanga Rocks. Proceedings kicked off with a spectator-oriented special stage, with a tough task ahead of Damso and Hodgson. Teamwork is all important in a rally car, and Damso spent 17 years working with Bonafide. It was a partnership that won 7 South African titles, and now Damso and Hodgson had to get to know each other in a small and very noisy office. By way of contrast, Habach and Judd have been together for years, and their problem was to get to grips with a brand new VW Golf 4 kit car, with Habach admitting that he was not 100% comfortable with left-hand drive. There was also a getting-to-know-you factor in the Sasol Motorcraft Ford Escort, but Paolo Piazzamuso and Richard Leek appear to be coping well enough.
Turn onto between trees. 80 meters R3.
Local crew Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the Team Total Toyota Conquest have also spent years together, with the Natalians completing the entries in the Premier Class A8 category. They'll be looking for more consistency this season, with that commodity no problem in the past for reigning Class A7 champions Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding in the Reeks 711 VW Golf. Behind van der Walt and Harding were another established crew in Hergen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz in the Dunne Toyota Conquest. The pair dominated Class A6 last season, with indications that the talented Fecken has finally come of age in the tough world of rallying. In rally terms, popular Group N champion Hannes Hrobler came of age years ago.
We've got a few competitors in Group N3, like Cliffy Blackman, Fisher Duplessis and a few other guys. And we're looking forward to a very strong competition this year. And also the Corollas and the Conquest that's in Group N2, they've worked hard on the cars, and I believe the cars are very fast. So I think they're going to give us a run for our money as well.
After the spectator stage in Pietermaritzburg, it was down to the nitty-gritty of forest rallying. Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson were just 2 seconds slower than Jan Habach and Douglas Judd in Special Stage 1, with Special Stage 2 offering a contrast in conditions. Slow and bumpy sections were interspersed with ultra-quick sections, and while Damso and Hodgson were being circumspect on a slower part of the route, Paolo Piazzamuso and Richard Leek were picking up a head of steam on one of the faster pieces of road.
Double caution, Sunbrock over there. 50, double caution, Sunbrock, followed by left-hander. Caution, jump down, and caution again.
Regular followers of the Stanek Rally Championship were looking forward to a good Class A7 battle between reigning champions Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding and Pretoria pair Barry Hrobelaar and Mike Burrows in the Team Total VW Golf. Both teams were going well in the early stages, while down in Group N, the Natal pairing of Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen had lost early ground to the Hrobelaar-Harrington combination. Weather conditions were hot and steamy, and it was hard work out there. While Blackman and Klaassen were battling on, there were early concerns for the Sasol Motorcraft Ford team, with technicians hard at work on the Piazzamuso Leek car at the end of Special Stage 2.
Well, it's certainly a point of concern. It was quite a rocky stage with quite a lot of sump rocks, and I think we hit one of those, and it subsequently cracked the sump. which is really not a good thing to have. We're going to try and close it up, and if we got some time later on in the day, try and change it. But it's quite a lengthy job, so I think we just have to nurse it a bit now and see how it goes.
At the end of special stage 2, Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson held a 1-second lead over Jan Habak and Douglas Judd and picked up another second on the VW Golf crew on special stage 3. The Etienne Lawrence-Robert Paisley combination was 9 seconds behind Piazza Musso and Leek in 4th place, with a high-speed Jump providing a few crews with a heart-stopping moment. Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz went through with a big thump, but no apparent damage to the Dunair Conquest. But there were problems for Group N and Class N3 leaders Hannes Krobler and Wiley Harrington. The total Bridgestone Nissan Sentra was in coast mode, and it was obvious that something was seriously amiss. Durban garage owner Tony Ball and Marty Olivier also landed with a mighty thump after their encounter with the Jump, but yet again there was no apparent damage. While Ball and Olivier continued on their merry way, it was the end of the road for Krobler and Harrington. The Nissan Sentra had finally given up the ghost, and that put KwaZulu-Natal crew Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen into the Group N and Class N3 lead. Blackman and Klaassen weren't taking any chances with the Jump, a case of a little local knowledge perhaps, while service crew ruefully surveyed broken engine bits and pieces from the Krobler-Harrington car.
In the third stage, the engine mounting just broke, and a piece of the engine mounting fell into the fan belt. The fan belt came out, and we couldn't change the fan belt quick enough, so we're basically out.
There was more drama on special stage 4 when a Jump launched the Damso-Hodgson Castrol Toyota into the air. The car then thumped a log on the side of the road, and that threw the steering out of kilter. Damso immediately slowed down, and on a special stage just short of 25 kilometers in length, the Castrol Toyota crew dropped 44 seconds to Jan Habak and Douglas Judd. A thoughtful spectator kindly moved the errant log out of the way before Habak and Judd arrived on the scene, but where Damso and Hodgson were concerned, the damage had already been done. A most personable fellow in everyday life, Jan Habak turns into a tiger in a rally car. The Italian is fast and aggressive, with Habak and Judd turning a 2-second deficit at the end of stage 2 into a 42-second lead at the end of stage 3. Such is the life in the world of rallying. The Piazza Musso Leek Ford Escort was mobile again, but there were more problems for the team. They picked up a puncture and dropped 64 seconds to Habak and Judd. Piazza Musso and Leek also dropped 14 seconds to Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley, with the team total crew closing to within 3 seconds of the Sasol Motorcraft Ford. Behind Lawrence and Paisley, the Fecken-Lukowitz pairing was trying to make up a 25-second deficit on Class A6 leaders Jean-Pierre Damso and Pierre Ari.
300, Bridget to T90 right over rut. Bridget to T90 right over rut. 100. Bridge into T90 right rut. 200 Jump.
Special stage 3 also saw the demise of Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding, who went out with engine failure. That was a rare blot on their reliability record and left Class A7 in the hands of Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows, and the Bulwer Park Golf GTI in the hands of Tony Ball and Marty Olivier. Ball is a multiple Natal rally champion with vast experience and an intimate knowledge of KwaZulu-Natal conditions. The battle between the two Volkswagen crews loaded with interest. With Hannes Krobler and Wiley Harrington now cast in the role of spectators, Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen had taken the lead in Class N3 and also led the Group N category. Chasing after them were Cape Crew, Diffie Moreira and Donny Duval, who picked up a 30-second penalty when they were 3 minutes late at a control point after being delayed by a puncture on an open section. While that was a bit of a setback for the Toyota Corolla crew, Blackman and Klaassen were now firmly in the Group N saddle, with Blackman the first to acknowledge that a little luck had gone their way in rougher than expected conditions.
Yeah, well, to Hannes's bad luck, we've just inherited the lead of Group N. We were about 17 seconds behind him at the time. Just shows the stages that we're doing are very rough. Hannes broke her engine mounting and her fan belt jumped off, and just shows you've got to really watch the rocks here. I don't know why we're on such rough stages, but it's really hard on the cars.
A big crowd was on hand back at Alexandra Park late in the day for the penultimate special stage on day 1. This time around, the leading 10 cars started in reverse order, with Tony Ball and Marty Olivier in the Bulwer Park VW Golf involved in a top-of-class A7 battle with the team total VW Golf of Pretoria crew Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows. The Ball-Olivier combination was holding on to a narrow lead over the Gauteng pair in an interesting confrontation in a class dominated by Volkswagen. Class A6 is Toyota territory, and here the fight was between reigning champions Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz in the Dunair Conquest, and the team total conquest of Jean-Pierre Damseau and Pierre Aris. Intermittent rain showers were starting to make life a little tricky for crews, but the Sasol Motorcraft Ford Escort of Paolo Piazzamuso and Richard Leake was going along steadily in third place.
3 on the tour. Then you got this right-hander into hump L2. Then you got fork L1 long.
At the front of the field, the Castrol Toyota Conquest steering had been restored to full working order, but Serge Damseau and Guy Hodgson trailed the factory VW Golf of Jan Habak and Doug Judd by 39 seconds. The vagaries of rallying altered that situation, with Habak and Judd picking up a puncture early in the stage, and the 1997 champions dropped 20 seconds to the Toyota pair, with their lead cut to 19 seconds. KwaZulu-Natal crew Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen were still pulling the strings at the front of the Group N category, and were just over a minute ahead of Cape pair, Diffie Moreira and Donny Duval in the Toyota Corolla. Moreira and Duval dropped 37 seconds to the local crew on stage 5, and a 30-second penalty dropped them further behind Blackman and Klaassen, with only the short spectator special stage at Umhlanga Rocks remaining on day 1. There was another huge crowd turnout, another inverted order start, and very little change in the status quo in the Class A7 scrap between Tony Ball and Marty Olivier, and Barry Hrobler and Mike Burrows. There wasn't much change either in the Class A6 battle between Fecken and Lukowitz and the JP Damseau-Aris combination. Damseau and Aris were a second quicker on the Umhlanga stage, and that stretched their overnight lead to a mere 9 seconds. Light rain was also falling in Umhlanga, with none of the top crews taking any chances at this late stage of day 1. Lawrence and Paisley were still fourth, and were just over half a minute behind the Piazzamuzzo-Leake Ford Escort. Piazzamuzzo was something of a spectator stage expert, and set the fastest time, albeit by only a second, to give the Sasol Motorcraft team a little boost. The Alexandra Park stage also left the factory VW Golf with a steering problem, and for left turns at Umhlanga, Jan Habak was forced to make use of muscle power and the handbrake. Damseau and Hodgson were being careful not to bang wheels on curbs, while Group N leaders Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen were also a little circumspect on the Umhlanga stage. The pair were now 10th overall, and posted the same time through the stage as the Toyota Corollas of Diffie Moreira and Donny Duval, and Class N2 leaders Skalk Berger and Martin Buerter in the Bridgestone Quality Tyres car. Berger and Buerter were only 26 seconds behind Blackman and Klaassen, and were in control of a Class N2 battle that also included the team total Toyota Corolla of Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper. Aging, but still spectacular, is the best way to describe the rear-wheel drive Nissan Skyline in the hands of Kali van der Merwe and André Vermeulen. The Pretoria pair were into the top 10, but with the Skyline, a Class S20 entry, van der Merwe and Vermeulen were not eligible for championship points. They were 9th overall at the end of day 1, with only 20 seconds between rally leaders Habak and Judd and Damseau and Hodgson. Good battles were on the go in Class A7 and Class A6, and in the Group N categories, with matters interestingly poised. At the end of a tough day, service areas were a hive of late-night activity, while crews took stock of proceedings.
Well, that's what I said at the start of the stage. One's got to be very careful, because that's where you can lose a lot of time. And we got a puncture just before a hairpin, and we rode over the pavement and bent the steering rack quite badly. So we couldn't turn left, and we lost a lot of time. But fortunately, we've been able to fix it, and I think we'll be on full steam again tomorrow morning.